Welcome to the channel. Today we're diving into the intricate situation between Canada and the United States regarding potential US tariffs on Canadian products, or as I like to call it, how to lose friends and alienate your largest trading partner 101. Buckle up, because things are about to get, well, let's just say the term trade war gets thrown around a lot these days, but in this case, it might actually be more appropriate than a pigeon wearing a tiny helmet made of toothpicks. Let's break it down step by step. So picture this. The American president, a man known for his, shall we say, unconventional negotiating style, decides he wants to slap tariffs on Canadian goods. And not just any goods, mind you. We're talking steel, aluminum, possibly even those little ketchup chip bags Canadians are so oddly fond of. It's enough to make a moose consider wearing one of those novelty hats with the ear flaps. But fear not, Canada. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, armed with nothing but his impeccable hair and a direct line to the Oval Office, managed to negotiate a 30-day pause on these tariffs. That's right, a full month for everyone to just take a deep breath and maybe try a Nanaimo bar, which is a Canadian delicacy that does not actually contain Nanaimo. This temporary reprieve was no doubt the result of some intense diplomacy, the kind that probably involves a lot of awkward silences and someone discreetly Googling what is the Canadian equivalent of a bald eagle. We can only imagine the conversations that took place, but I'm guessing it went something like this. Look, Mr. President, I understand you're concerned about trade deficits and whatnot, but threatening your closest ally with economic sanctions, that's a bit much, even for you. The point is, Trudeau somehow managed to buy Canada some time, 30 days to be exact. Now, whether that's enough time to prevent an all-out trade war, well, that's anyone's guess. Now, getting Trump to agree to a 30-day pause wasn't exactly like pulling teeth, mainly because I imagine pulling teeth from a tiger shark would be less painful. It required some concessions on Canada's part. First, they agreed to review their banking regulations, which, let's be honest, are probably about as exciting as watching paint dry on a stack of tax forms. But to Trump, this was a major win, a chance to potentially allow American banks to operate more freely in Canada. Then there's the whole issue of the trade balance. The US has long complained about its trade deficit with Canada, which is a bit like a giraffe complaining that a squirrel is eating too many nuts. It's not that the squirrel is eating too many nuts, it's just the scale of it all is a bit absurd. Still, Canada seems willing to at least explore ways to increase US imports, which could involve anything from buying more American-made cars, which, let's be honest, have gotten a lot better since the days of the AMC Pacer, to importing more of those delicious peanut butter-filled pretzels. The point is, Canada is trying to appease Trump without completely throwing its own economy under the bus. It's a delicate balancing act, like trying to ride a unicycle on a tightrope while juggling chainsaws and reciting the Canadian national anthem in Klingon. Chapter 3, Doug Ford, From Tariff Avenger to Reluctant Diplomat. Meanwhile, down in the heart of Canada, Ontario Premier Doug Ford was busy preparing for a full-blown trade war. And let me tell you, when Doug Ford starts talking about retaliatory measures, things are about to get real. We're talking about pulling American alcohol from LCBO stores, which is basically like taking away a Canadian's right to drink Molson Canadian while wearing earmuffs. It's a bold move, let's see if it pays off. He even went so far as to threaten canceling a contract with Elon Musk's Starlink, which, knowing Musk, probably resulted in a strongly worded tweet about how Canada was killing innovation and holding back the Mars colonization effort. But then, just as suddenly as he donned his metaphorical battle gear, Ford decided to stand down. The 30-day pause gave him just enough time to realize that maybe, just maybe, diplomacy wasn't such a bad idea after all. So for now, the LCBO shelves will remain stocked with Budweiser, and Canadians will have to find other ways to express their displeasure with American trade policies. I'm sure they'll find a way, though. Those Canadians are a resourceful bunch. They did, after all, invent poutine. And if that's not a sign of a nation capable of anything, I don't know what is. Chapter 4. 30 Days to Sanity, Can Cooler Heads Prevail? So, Canada has bought itself some time. 30 days may not seem like much, especially in the grand scheme of international trade negotiations, which tend to move at the speed of a glacier covered in molasses. But it's a start. And, within that month, Canada is hoping to achieve one thing, getting everyone to just calm down a bit. The strategy seems to be to use this time to facilitate negotiations, to create a space where cooler heads can prevail, and hopefully avoid a trade war that would make everyone's lives more complicated. Because let's be honest, the last thing anyone needs is a trade war. It's like a pie-eating contest where everyone loses. Except instead of pie, it's jobs, economic stability, and the ability to buy those delicious little ketchup chips without having to remortgage your house. So can Canada pull it off? Can they use these 30 days to smooth things over with the US and reach a more favorable trade agreement? Or will this just be a temporary truce in a much larger trade war? Only time will tell. But one thing's for sure, it's going to be an interesting month. Chapter 5. The Big Picture. More than just tariffs at stake. While this whole tariff tango might seem like a niche issue, something only economists and people who really love maple syrup care about, it actually has implications that go far beyond just trade. This situation could have a ripple effect on everything from diplomatic relations to various industries and markets. For example, if the US starts slapping tariffs on Canadian steel, that could drive up the cost of construction projects in both countries. And if Canada retaliates by, say, putting a tariff on American-made cars, well, let's just say it's not going to be good for anyone's bottom line. But perhaps even more importantly, this situation highlights Canada's delicate position in the ongoing trade war between the US and China. Canada, like a teenager stuck between two arguing parents, is trying its best to stay neutral, to avoid picking sides. But as the US and China continue to duke it out, it's becoming increasingly difficult for Canada to stay on the sidelines. In the end, this whole tariff situation is a reminder that the global economy is a complex and interconnected web. What happens in one part of the world can have far-reaching consequences elsewhere. And while we can all hope for a quick and amicable resolution to this particular trade dispute, it's important to remember that the stakes are high and the outcome is far from certain. And that's the current state of the US-Canada tariff situation, a delicate dance of diplomacy, concessions, and the ever-present threat of economic chaos. Will these two countries, bound by history, geography, and a shared love of hockey, be able to find common ground? Or are we about to witness a trade war that will leave everyone worse off? Stay tuned for more updates as this story unfolds, because honestly, at this point, anything could happen. And let's be real, you won't want to miss a single ridiculous chapter of this international trade saga. Because if there's one thing we've learned from all of this, it's that trade wars are never simple, rarely rational, and always entertaining. At least for those of us watching from a safe distance. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more insightful content.